morning, everyone. It's Amy from Swisher Family Farm. Welcome to our orchard. We have planted a few fruit trees already, and we're going to do some pruning to those today. But we are planning on adding some additional fruit trees, and we have a variety of them. So we're very excited. I mean, it's just for my husband and I. You know, Justin, you've seen him quite a bit on the videos. I don't come in too often. My time in the videos is in the spring and summer and fall, related to the fruit trees and the garden and all of the stuff we do there. I don't really get involved a whole lot in the building projects because that's his thing, and during the winter time, by the time I'm done working, it's dark out, so there's not a whole lot I can do outside with the homestead. So today I'm going to be pruning some trees, and we have several different varieties. We have 2 apple trees, Honeycrisp apples. We have a cherry tree, and we have our peach tree. We have a brand new peach tree that was just planted the other day, so I'm not touching that one today. Well, maybe I will. I see a couple of low-hanging branches I might want to go ahead and get rid of. But today I'm going to focus on this peach tree and cleaning it up. You can see it's doing beautifully. I didn't realize the beautiful colored flowers that come up on the peach tree that came up last year. They were gorgeous. They are peach colored, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. And then the fruit comes through. So I'm very excited about that, but I'm going to show you what you should be doing when you're pruning your peach trees. And your peach trees are a little more delicate than your, say, apple and pear trees would be. I'm getting commentary from the chickens. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be pruning the peach tree. I don't want to do a whole lot. We're also going to be spraying it down to make sure that we don't get any pests or insects. We're using all natural things to spray down our trees so that it doesn't have any negative impact on us or our farm. Alright, so I'm over here at my peach tree, and one of the things that you want to look at when you are pruning your peach tree is you want to look for those branches, kind of like on your tomato plants. There are branches that will come out that are suckers, and all they do is soak up energy from the tree that take away from the fruit that it can produce. So branches like this that have there's no buds on this branch at all. I mean, it's not even a branch, it's a twig coming off there. So these right here are all going to be trimmed off. This branch right here, it does have buds on it, but I'm going to go ahead and trim it because it's rubbing up against this branch here. So I'll be trimming that. I also noticed that this section of this branch right here, while it does go straight up, there's no buds on any of these little branches. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this off so that it can expel its energy to the other branches that do have buds on it that will produce fruit. One of the other things I'm going to be looking at as I go around the tree are branches that are growing back in towards the tree. Kind of like this one here. Even though it's got buds on it, I don't want any branches that are going straight up in the air or growing back towards the tree. You want the canopy to go out like this. The peach tree should be in kind of a V shape. And so you want the branches to come off at kind of like a 45-degree angle. Like this one probably next year, if it's still growing down, next year this one's going to come off. And possibly this one too, because it's kind of growing straight out. So we'll see what happens next year. I don't want to take too much off this year because this tree is only about 2.5 years old. So I don't want to start really pruning it until it's been after its 3rd year, going into its 4th year. So one of the things you want to remember about the peach trees is you want to start pruning it when you start seeing the buds. Don't prune it before that because the tree will not be, it will be susceptible to disease if you prune it too early. So you want to make sure you wait until you start seeing the buds come up. So, as I said a minute ago, there are little branches that will come out that are not going to produce any fruit. No buds or anything will come up. So those are ones that you can trim. And when you trim, you want to make sure you cut on an angle. Okay, so you can see here, I wanted to point this out because when we got this tree from the nursery, they had already done some trimming on it. So you can see how this branch here, when they trimmed it off, it's cut at an angle. And that's how you want to make sure you cut when you're pruning. So you want to make sure that you remember to cut at an angle so it helps the tree to heal better. And as I said, I'm going to take this branch off because none of these have any buds on them. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off right here so that the rest of these will produce fruit. Like this one has good fruit, good buds on it. This one has good buds on it, but this one doesn't have any. And I'm hoping these pruners are good enough to...
Oh yeah.
And no problem. So you can see how there's an angle there. So that'll help the tree to heal when, now that I've pruned it. So here, I'm gonna cut this one off because it is rubbing on this other branch. So as it gets bigger, they're just gonna rub together and create a problem. So it'll be better to cut it now. So remember to cut at an angle. And I'm cutting it, it looks like a knuckle to me, so that's what I'm gonna call it. I don't know if that's what it is. But right below this knuckle is where I'm gonna cut it, so it leaves a little bit of the branch that you cut there so that the tree can heal. And then I definitely wanna cut this one back because it's kind of like a sucker from a tomato plant. So this one, you can see it's already got some growth coming off of it. I don't like this one because it's growing straight up and you don't want that. So I'm gonna cut it about an inch above the branch there. And then if it does still continue to grow, kind of like this one here that didn't have any other growth on it, then I'll trim it back more later on. So the ones that you want to make sure you keep, or the ones that you want to get rid of, are ones that are growing straight up vertically, or growing straight down, or growing straight out horizontally. You always want to keep the ones that are on an angle, or not growing downwards. Like I said, I'm going to leave this one here because it does have a lot of buds on it, and we'll see if it corrects itself over the next year. If by next year it's still growing downwards, I'll trim it off. But everything else looks good. I don't want to trim too much yet because this is still a very young tree. So I don't want to trim too much, but I think that the peach tree looks good. And this is something that you have to take your time in doing, especially when it becomes a more mature tree, because you want to make sure that it looks good, that it makes the tree look good, that it makes the tree look healthy. And so there may be times that you go up and you trim something and then you want to step back and take a look at the tree again from a distance, not just up here close to it. And then you might need to go back in and trim something else. Something else that I think I saw it on YouTube. During the summer, if you notice that there's a branch that maybe you didn't know, and this can apply to any tree that you're pruning, that you weren't sure in the wintertime if it was going to produce or not, or grow leaves or whatever. If you notice in the summertime that there's a branch that's dead that needs to be trimmed, you can mark it so when you trim it in the wintertime, you know which branch you need to take off. If it's not diseased. If it's diseased, you want to get it off right then when you notice it. Alright, so now I have pruned my peach tree. As I said before at the beginning of the video, before I started pruning it, I wasn't going to do a whole lot to this tree because it's still a very young tree. So probably after next year, I'll do a lot more trimming to it, or pruning to it, to make it produce more. You definitely want to prune your trees because you will get a better harvest when you are properly pruning your trees. And the reason is because if you have a bunch of branches on here that are not producing fruit, they are taking energy away from the tree that's unnecessary. So when you trim off the excess branches, that energy then goes to the fruit that the tree can produce. And you can see I'm very excited. I think I'm gonna get peaches this year, which is good. We got, I think there were 3 that were on the tree last year. They got eaten by deer, but they were very small and they fell off very quickly. So I'm hoping this year we will have a good harvest of peaches. Definitely next year we'll have one. So next we're going to go over and we're going to work on one of our apple trees. So before I start trimming the apple tree, to make sure that there wasn't any disease on the peach tree that could be transferred to the apple tree, between every pruning of every tree, even if it's the same kind of tree, you want to clean your shears, your trimmers, your pruners, whatever you've used, even if it's a pole saw. If you're trimming potentially a diseased tree, you want to make sure that you clean it well. So I'm just using just a little rubbing alcohol. Put it on the paper towel. See if it'll stay there. Whew, look at that. And of course you want to be very careful because these are very sharp. But just wipe it down real good with the alcohol. Make sure you get both sides of the blade. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. But you want to do that between the pruning of each tree, just to make sure if there was any disease on that peach tree, I don't want it to transfer over here to the apple tree. All right, so now I'm going to work on our apple trees. We got 2 Honeycrisp apples. We got them at the same time, but the one that originally went here, after maybe a week or 2, it died. So we went back to the nursery and they gave us another one. So it was, we like that nursery. We'll definitely be going back there again. But this one, for some reason when we planted it, it kept leaning one side or the other. And we would, pack dirt in there and make sure that it was stable, had enough dirt, the root ball was good. But it still kept leaning. So we tied it up with stakes. There's a t-shirt in here, or a part of a t-shirt in here, so that as the tree grew, the wire wouldn't cut into it. But it's stable now. I mean, the stakes aren't even really doing anything to it anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and take these out today and see how it does on its own now that it's had the stakes to stabilize it for a year. Looks good. It doesn't even really, there's not even a mark from the wire. There's a little discoloration there from the moisture that the t-shirt was holding onto the tree, but that'll clear up now that the sun is hitting it, so I don't have any concerns about that. This one is going to be a little bit different in how I trim. The apple trees you definitely want to trim late winter. If you trim them too early in the fall, they could still have sap in them. Yes, apple trees have sap. They could still have sap in them, and they'll basically bleed. And so if the sap is too runny, basically, the tree could bleed to death, and you don't want that to happen. So the apple tree is going to be pruned a little bit more. This one has a lot of branches that are coming out, and you can see some of them are already turning down. Like this one's turning down, this one. So there'll be quite a few that I'm going to trim off of this one, just to give the tree a good shape. And like I said, you want to do it in late winter when the sap is still frozen, pretty much frozen in the tree, so it gives the tree a better opportunity to heal. We talked about it. I am going to go ahead and trim this branch off just because it's so low to the ground. I don't like it that this one is down this far. So these two branches here, they're not touching yet, but they will eventually. So I'm going to cut one of them out. We were trying to decide which one to cut out. So we're going to cut out this one that's growing up, just because it's growing straight up. This one's growing more out, and that's how we want it. We want to shape a nice tree. So I noticed after Justin tied it up that there are a couple of branches that have broken on it, so probably in transit, bringing it home, they broke. I also noticed that there's a couple of them that are gray, and I know those are not going to produce anything. So I'm going to, I know I said before I wasn't going to do anything to this tree. I've changed my mind. And then one last thing I'm going to do is take off the tag. Fortunately, it'll come off. Okay. Fortunately, it comes on elastic. I always like to save it because I want to make sure I know what kind of tree it is. Now you may notice that you may think that the twine that we used kind of looks familiar. We always save the twine from our hay bales that we get because we can use those in a wide variety of things around the homestead. So you always want to reuse and repurpose things as much as possible when you're on a homestead. So that's where that twine came from. So if it looks familiar, that's why. So that's been our fruit tree trimming project so far today. The next thing we're going to do now that we have trimmed the trees to protect them from pesticide and disease and any fungus, we have a fungicide that we're going to be spraying on the trees to protect them. And Justin's going to be doing that today.
Alright guys, now we're going to fungicide the tree. Actually, I'm going to fungicide the tree. Make sure that you got some plastic gloves. This comes in concentrate or ready to use. This is a ready to use. We do have concentrate. There's no reason to use the concentrate and a pump sprayer because most of the trees are really small. I can reach them within my height. This one's a little big. I'm not too worried about it. Nothing's going to happen to it this year. Next year we'll get it really good. But so what I'm using right now is I'm using a copper fungicide by Captain Jack. A lot of people use this. They say it works really well. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to shoot the tree down real good and coat it really good. Don't worry about it. You're not going to do much on it. It will save the life of your tree. There's a few areas that I did see that had a little bit of fungicide, especially on the apple trees, which are known. Now, one of the other good reasons using this is that if you're planting an orchard and you have cedar trees around you, A cedar tree can pollinate from up to a mile away. And when that dust hits the trees, it causes a lot of havoc on your tree. So, I mean, we've got cedar trees all over the place around here. So that's one of the reasons we have to use this more often than most people do. I got one right behind Amy. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 40 foot tall. And we're going to have that one taken out here within the next week. So, and I'll cut it up and I'll use it for firewood, and I'll cut it up and I'll use it for wood, for planks. There's a lot of stuff you can use a cedar for. So I'm going to go ahead and start spraying this down. Got a little in the face. I am now do fungicide. Might have been better using our sprayer.
Yeah.
This thing wastes half of it just. All right, walk around it, check it out. Make sure you got all defungicide. There we go. All right, that's done. Now we're gonna move over here. Start at the top. Now this is the one that we had a problem with last year, and I wasn't able to get to it in time, so it took its toll really quick. Alright guys, so I fungicide this. It's all done. I fungicide that, and I fungicide the peach tree. Now, once the leaves bloom, if you start seeing an orange film or a yellow film on them, that means one, you got a cedar tree around, and two, your leaves are taking a hit. As soon as you get the first inkling of a little bit of yellow on the leaves, take that fungicide again and spray down all the leaves. Just a quick tip, because it will happen, trust me. So we got these done. I do not spray the fungicide on my cherry tree at all. The cherry tree is fine. We don't have any problems with it. The two that we have to worry about the most are the two apples and some of the peach. The new peach that's over here that we just planted, I am not going to fungicide that unless I see a problem, and then I'll hit it. But this is preventative maintenance on some of these. I have had no problems on this tree so far this year. I have had problems on this tree. So I'm hoping to get that one that we planted 2.5 years ago, which is that one. And you can see the growth for 2.5 years hasn't been much. I'm really unhappy with that bottle dripping all over the place, you know? It's like wasting money. But luckily, if you haven't seen it, Amy will have a video up here of where I've got this stuff, how I got it, and how cheap I got it. All right, guys, so you got to see what we do and how we take care of our new orchard that we're planting. Amy doesn't know it, but we have a couple more trees coming.
We do.
Yes, we got 2 pear trees.
Ooh.
And I've been really pushing for it. I don't know how it's going to do up here, but we're going to get a fig tree. And I'm hoping to see what the fig tree is going to do up here. Figs don't do well in a windy area, so we'll see. But at that point, guys, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was very intuitive to you, and that you got to learn something, or you found something out new you didn't know. You know, we're not professionals at this. We don't claim to be at all. We just do a lot of our own research. A lot of our own research, read books. Yeah. And we find out, and hopefully, you know, for those of you who are not book dwellers or people who are on the internet too much, but apparently if you're watching this, you must be on the internet. All right, at that point, guys, God bless you. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, that like button, tell your friends about us. And hey, you know, anybody can do this. This is not, just do your research. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. I mean, we've watched so many people with homesteads and farms that that fail, and we ask ourselves why when we're out here doing it. We're some city dwellers.
Yeah.
And you know, we did lived in the city and you know, lived the rush life all the time, and then we moved out to the country. We started doing this on our own, and look at us now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to look like Grizzly Adams here too. All right, guys.
You got a little ways to go.
Yeah, we'll let you guys go. God bless. Take care. Don't forget, tell your friends about us. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Take care.
Bye now.